very good evening for you to one of another episode of AHK Night Talk. And tonight we have Grégoire Cuny from Vitesco. You're the president of Vitesco. You have long experience in automotive industry with different companies. We might go into that a little bit later. But you already won the first prize for the most beautiful name we are having in our show. So I'm very happy that you came. We have a little game we start with. I will ask you 10 questions. Mm-hmm. The rule is quite easy. You can answer with yes or no. Nothing maybe, nothing in between, just yes or no. Grégoire, will China as a market lose significance over the next 10 years?
No.
Do you see the end of globalization?
No.
Do you have to be in China to stay globally competitive?
Yes.
Do you see localization as a necessary step for risk mitigation?
Yes.
Do you see local competition as one of the biggest challenges?
No.
Will German companies be still competitive in 10 years?
Yes.
Is diversification a strategy for business resilience?
Yes.
Is China a global leader in NEV technologies?
Yes.
Will artificial intelligence fundamentally transform business in the coming years?
Yes.
Can you find enough or the right talents in China?
Yes.
You answered it very well. I will dig into the one or the other question a little bit later. But before we start, Vitesco is not a company everyone knows, but you're deeply into the industry. Maybe you can introduce your first quickly, where you come from. You have experience with Vitesco, Continental, but also Siemens, always in the same unit, basically focusing on transmission. And then you also can tell us a little bit what Vitesco is doing.
Right. So my name is Grégoire Cuny, and I'm the president of Vitesco Technologies in China. I've been working for the automotive industry for more than 20 years, as you mentioned. And I'm a software engineer by training. So started with software and engineering. Which is very much helping these days, because I think that's a part that brings a lot of topics such as agile methodologies, etc. So that was already in my trainings more than 25 years ago. I've been doing various functions, working in France, in Germany, in South Korea, as well as in China. So I'm very happy to have been part of this automotive industry. I mean, that was always a dream for me to work in the automotive industry, and now I'm part of it. When I was young, electrification was something I was scared about, because I thought, well, I really want to drive an internal combustion car, and I hope I can drive one day, and that the cars are not going to disappear. Now I'm very happy to be part of this transformation, because I love EVs as well. So that's a little bit about me. Now about Vitesco Technologies. This is a leading international automotive supplier for electric drive systems. And our goal is to power clean mobility. So at the end of the day, we are providing solutions on a system level, but also components that are covering a whole range of vehicles. So from battery electric vehicles, hybrid vehicles, and internal combustion engines. And again, our goal is to power the clean mobility and make it affordable for everyone. So that's a little bit part who we are. Our portfolio includes a large range of components from, let's say, electric drives, electronic controls, some sensors, some actuators for the also the exhaust and aftergas treatment. And that's a topic that actually has been driving us for years. And I mentioned it, we are in the transformation. In China, we are there since long time. And we have a presence with 7 R&D centers, 4 major manufacturing locations, and have around about 6,000 people in the country.
So quite a mature company, just with a new name.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go that way. This transformation, you said that Vitesco is in a transformation, but the market is also in the transformation. So maybe you can elaborate a little bit how the automotive market looks like, what's this transformation is, what's the current status is.
We talked about it already. I mean, the trend is about electrification. This is a future, and at the same time, it's accelerating. So already by 2025, it's planned that 40% of all cars worldwide are having a certain kind of electrification, can be from light hybridization to full battery electric vehicle. And this is going to change because in 5 years later, only 5 years later, we would move from 40% to 70% of the global car industry having some cars which are to a certain extent electrified. And when we look at China, it's at the forefront of this transformation. If we remember some of the government targets some years ago, it was to have so-called NEV, so these new energy vehicles, 20% by 2025. That was a target a couple of years ago. And when I say it's accelerating, just look at it. This year, we are already above 30%. So that's clearly one of the trend. And as Vitesco Technologies, we positioned ourselves very early into that transformation. And that was back already 4 years ago when we set our course, our direction for the year 2030. And you see it already in our vision. It's electrified, emotion, and everywhere. And each of these words has really its importance. So electrified is obvious. Emotion, well, we're talking about cars. So at the end of the day, it's also providing some fun to drive. And it's a play on word with emotion. And everywhere, because of course we want to provide solutions that are suitable for everyone. So we cannot only concentrate on a certain category of customers or cars. We want to provide really this affordable mobility everywhere. So this is really in transformation, and we are at the front of this transformation and actively shaping it.
We had an event with Bill Russo, who's a consultant focusing on the automotive market, well known, and he presented us a report he wrote in 2009, and the report was written, don't quote me on that, but something like China is leading the transformation to a electrified automotive sector. And it feels now that it really accelerates what you said exponentially. What are the key innovations driving the business here, but also driving Vitesco as a company?
Right. If you look at this industry, there are two types when you're going to buy for an electric vehicle. I mean, people are thinking about what is the range and of this vehicle, how far can I go? And well, when my batteries are empty, how quickly can I charge them? So at the end of the day, this is what everyone is working on from the whole supply chain to improve at the end of the day this user experience. So looking at the trends, one of the trends is called silicon carbide. And that's technologies on the electronics that is really transforming the industry, because together with higher voltage on the car, on these electrified cars, what it will help technically is that it will make your car charge much faster. And that's much more efficient drive and much faster. So obviously that's something, first of all, that we are working on. And there is right now a kind of competition of who is getting access to the technology, but also access to the supply. And that's why we have made some partnerships with some companies like Infineon, Onsemi, and Rome to secure that supply. So that's one part of it, really highly technological. Another part of it is integration of multiple components in order to make this electric powertrain as light, compact, and a higher power density. And this is called axle drive. And in China, extremely popular. We started with a couple of 3-in-1, so 3 components with a motor, let's say a reducer, and the power electronics to drive this. But it goes with more and more. And I've heard even more than 10 or 11 in one, which brings even more components. At the end of the day, that's the answer of the industry to make it lighter, more efficient, but also faster into the market, because once you have one solution, you can have multiple car platforms and car shapes from SUV to sedan to support that. And that's, of course, something that we have been working on as well, and providing some, let's say, a 3-in-1 in this market already. And the world first, actually, for us of this 3-in-1 was in the market here in China, in Tianjin, where we are supplying this already since 2019. And that was our 3rd generation, right? So that's a really fascinating world. And this two, I would say, are really driving the industry at this point in time.
Let me try to get that right or understand it a little bit different. Is this a specific Chinese ecosystem we are finding here, or is it rather a global system? Or are those systems, if there are two, interlinked and connected?
Well, these trends are definitely global. However, I would say they are even accelerated in China, because if you look at the market data, I talked before, 30% of the NEV already, so means 1 car out of 3 nearly sold in this market here is either a plug-in hybrid or a pure battery electric vehicle. And therefore, if you look at the mass and look at how much is in the rest of the world, definitely China is transforming faster. There are many more cars on the street. And I would claim that this market has already moved from, let's say, heavily incentivized market, right? Like in cities like Shanghai, where the license plate were free for a certain type of these electrified vehicles. But nowadays, if we look at where the growth is coming, this is coming more from the tier 3, tier 4, tier 5 cities. So the growth of new energy vehicle sales is coming from these cities where there are no incentive actually. And that's showing that the consumer taste, the consumer preference has shifted. So it's not anymore something that is heavily helped, encouraged with different policies. It's really something now that the end users like very much. And I mentioned the story at the beginning about myself fearing of never driving a combustion car. Thanks God I did. But now I'm so happy to have no combustion car anymore. So I have 1 car here, 1 car in France, and both of them are battery electric vehicles.
I won't ask you for the brand.
No, you won't, because at the end of the day, it's for you. For me, it's the same. My wife is choosing the car.
So okay. Then you don't have any influence on that. So far, you were discussing, or you were mentioning the Chinese automotive market. Is there a difference between the foreign multinational OEMs in the market and the Chinese car makers, or are they more or less the same?
Well, if you look today at this market segmentation here, you will find as the major winners are the Chinese OEM cars. This is fundamentally also, we can see also because they were, some of them, the first ones to enter and to decide for the transformation. Some of the companies have decided to give up the internal combustion engine or to completely shift towards a very electrified future much earlier than other companies. And of course, this is helped by the appetite, I would say, of the consumer here that are eager to try on new things, new technologies, and see the car not anymore as a transportation mean, but really the extension somehow of your digital environment and the digital ecosystem. So at the end of the day, if you look at especially the Chinese brands, they are offering a seamless mobility from when you're outside of your car to inside of the car and getting out. And this is here where there is a certain advantage in really understanding the customers and the consumer preference and the user experience. And I believe that the international brands are going to catch up there, but that's true at this moment. And especially when it comes to electrified cars or battery electric vehicles, people are expecting for something even more fancy, and it goes with connected cars. Yeah.
Is that a Chinese-specific consumer behavior, or do you think it will be global?
It will become global. However, I think we are a little bit more conservative when it comes to technologies, and especially for items which have a certain price, right? This is normally the second most expensive things that you buy in your life after your house. This is the car. And I think we are a little bit more conservative in the Western world. However, I think also I strongly believe once the people will look at it and try these cars and get rid of this maybe range anxiety, that's something that is really great to drive this kind of cars. So I believe definitely the trend is there. We can see it from global, but China will continue to be definitely a major player. Also, if you look at the global industry and the market in China will be, again, more than 35% of the cars in a couple of years from now, 2030, they will be produced in this market, right? This has been the largest automotive market for more than 14 years already, and this will continue to be in the years to come.
We focus now a little bit on the OEMs, but I want to dig a little bit deeper into the supplier industry. In the political discussions in Berlin, for example, but also with a lot of companies in Germany, it seems like they state the Chinese NEVs are developing rapidly and our German OEMs are lacking a little bit behind, and that the Chinese NEV are a great competition. What they barely discuss that there are German suppliers also in the Chinese NEVs or in the OEM supply chains integrated. Maybe you can explain a little bit what German suppliers play a role in the Chinese NEV ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at this system here and the ecosystem here, what are the criteria that are asked in this new era of electrification? First of all, speed. So that's true. There are new entrants, there are old entrants, old OEMs, and also the new entrants here in this market on the Chinese side of it. And they are all asking for speed. We were talking before about development cycle for a new vehicle, maybe 3 to 5 years even. Now it's dramatically reduced, maybe 2 years. This becomes the norm, and we have to adapt to it. So that would be the first one. The second one is the volatility. I mean, if you look at who is winning in this market, how many cars are sold months over months, you will see this is rapidly changing, and the positions are quickly changing. So also, this is something that we have to learn. So the volatility and the flexibility. Last but not least, of course, the cost, because we have to provide, and that's the difficult equation, the most advanced technologies at really the best price in the market. And I believe that German suppliers in this market are also participating in this and learning as well together with the domestic OEMs. And this is something that we can bring back home and supplying the, let's say, historical traditional ones and helping our OEMs at home again in order to catch up. And I believe we will catch up.
But I think Vitesco is already quite far developed and you learned a lot. So you are already supplying to Chinese OEMs. Maybe you told us what's different, mainly speed, right? But how did Vitesco set up that strategy in order to compete with local competitors, but also to fulfill the demands and the requirements of Chinese NEVs?
Well, we are obviously following a set of global regulations and standards, and here this is something we are not crossing. But at the end of the day, it all comes that you have to show what is the value add that you're providing to the different elements in the industry. But how do we position ourselves? You have to take more risks in this market. You have to understand more the trends and do some more advanced development. So you really have to prepare your platforms, and that's the risk you're taking because you don't have yet the certainty about how it's going to look like. So we are really developing platforms, platform elements, so that as soon as we have a new customer that is having need for help, then we are providing rather quickly, like you would take all your bricks, all your elements in order to build a product. It's not always easy. We have also ways to look at this, but at the end of the day, what is important is to localize and be in this market. We are a lot of engineers in the markets that's really to sense and discuss and answer quickly to the customer demand. So that's something we have been doing for a long period of time. And we are steadily investing in the market because we strongly believe this is the place to be. If you want to be successful as an automotive supplier in the field where we are, you have to be successful in China. If you're successful in China, you will be successful worldwide. So that's why we continue investing here.
Yeah, I always hear that also, like, if you can survive in China, you will survive globally. But, and that's an important question. How important is it for German suppliers to really invest into China to remain globally competitive? Because we are reading now a lot that Chinese companies have a lack in local market demand, so they're trying to push for exports and therefore pushing into our traditional markets, right? So could we even remain competitive globally if we are not learning here?
I don't think so. I think you have to be here in order to learn this speed. You have to be here to learn how to be more agile when it comes to volume. You have to be here to have a supply chain that allows you to have a certain cost. And this all these learnings, as I said, you can scale it up. The market is so large, you can scale it and bring it back to the other markets. I believe that somebody that would not operate here would not have the scale. Also, now in the era of electrification, all the new generation, all the new elements of technologies are very often, not always, but very often started from China. And they are tried out, and they are tried out very quickly. And if it fails, then it's stopped very quickly. Something that we have to learn from the West, where, well, normally the automotive industry is extremely conservative, and we take really the whole process, the whole know-how we have for decades, how to develop the products, where we are less risk-taking. And here, what I really like is really the new entrants. The new entrants in this industry, more coming from the IT industry, and these guys are pushing us because we have to learn from both sides, and we really see new ways of thinking, new ways of developing, and well, we don't always agree, but at the end of the day, we find a solution, and I can tell you this already helps us to put into production some of our products. I've surprised so many times our colleagues back in Germany to tell them, hey, this new program, we just won the order, we're going to put in production in 12 or 14 months. And they are looking at us and say, wow, this is not going to be possible. And guess what? We did it. Of course, we do it, and sometimes we suffer. But at the end of the day, we do it, and it's a success. But we learned a lot on both sides of the partnerships. That's why I love really also working with the new entrants, we call it DMGs, the Diverse Mobility Group, yeah? Again, coming from a different industry, looking at the problems from a different angle and providing solutions that are, at the end, delightful for users, but I hope. But for us, this is where we learn. And I think this is where we can really provide after that back this knowledge into our global standard and see how we can adapt.
So huge advantage for Vitesco that you have such a huge footprint really here in the market, with very localized, right, with manufacturing plants, R&D, management, etc. Nevertheless, I ask you in my 11 questions whether you see local competition as one of the biggest challenge for German companies, and you said no. Maybe you can elaborate on that.
Well, competition is always something I think that is absolutely needed, right? So, I mean, if you have, I remember some years ago, a competitor of us was getting an award at one of the customers, and he thanked all the competitors in the room, because he said, if I'm here on stage, it's because you pushed me to be the best today. So there are some automotive supplier giants that are popping up, and we see that rapidly going, especially the battery arena, but not only, where we find in the top 10 already very quickly some of the Chinese competition. So there will be some giants. Nevertheless, I believe there is really a space for everybody, and especially the space for those that are taking this transformation. And this is where I'm very happy that at Vitesco we took that transformation quite early on. Otherwise, if we would still be heavily relying on combustion products, that would be something that might be painful. So that's something that we did ahead. There were not so many people at the time that were 100% sure that it would be fully electric. And to be honest, in our plants, we were quite more conservative in the beginning with regards to projection in 2030, 2035. But now looking at all the regulations worldwide, this is boosting up. So the local competition here is making us, at the end of the day, better. So we have to compete with these guys. If we are successful here, we will be successful some other places. And I mentioned the timings before. They are able to do it, and that pushed us to say that we are able. We will find a way, and we found a way. And we are bringing with global standards, we are bringing really also in the timely speed that is needed to provide the market. We are providing the product. So yeah, it's tough, but this is pushing us to be better.
And especially looking at Vitesco, your product portfolio seems to be quite diversified, and you have really a lot of products, and all focused or mainly focused on NEV, right? So probably you need a lot of capex to do that, but therefore you also need those scales here. But I think competition is really difficult for you. So what is the USP for Vitesco? What's your competitive advantage by having such a huge range of products?
Yeah, we still have the range. I mean, there is still a portion of the company that is in combustion components. And this part is still very important for us. We have two pillars, right? The combustion and the electrification. And this part goes hand in hand. The one is financing the other one. We are very proud to be self-financing in this industry and providing then therefore solutions for this transformation. Well, what are the advantage? We are coming from decades of experience and we have been in the electrification arena investing since 2006. So it's not
quite
new.
From the
it's
beginning.
More than earlier, 2 decades. That's one thing. And we have a strong systems and electronics know-how. So when we look at the portfolio also, we have, as you mentioned, we have around about 80% of the portfolio that is needed in the diverse degrees of electrification. I talked a lot about battery electric vehicle, but we also provide for light hybridization like 48 volt and plug-in electric cars and hybrid cars. So with this, the portfolio is also pretty much I would say in line, no matter how the market is developing. If there is more preference to a certain type of vehicles, then we have the products. If we go into another one, then we also have an answer. And I think we have to stay flexible in these times of change. So at the end of the day, this long-term investment in R&D, in this system expertise that we have is really helping at the end of the day to provide solutions to the customer here. That's where we have this strong DNA. And some customers, they want just components, and that's okay because we can provide them the components and support them still on their system because they know we can do that. So that's a differentiator and one of the USP for us in the market.
You're a listed company, you're a global active company. You're also globally under strong observation from your investors, clients, customers, suppliers, employees. So ESG will play a role for Vitesco, I'm sure. How are you working with this topic? Is this really something Vitesco is believing in because you think it makes you better? But is it also a competitive advantage here in China?
At the end of the day, this is something that touched our heart. I mean, we talked about our mission, this powering clean mobility, and we really put sustainability at the center of the discussions. First of all, from our products, because we are working on products that are accompanying to this transformation, but also on the way we do it, the way we invest, and we have published some of the ESG reports since the early years on as Vitesco Technologies. So that's something that's really at the center of our thoughts. And we talk a lot also already about life cycle engineering. So how from the moment you start to develop this product, how you can recycle later on. That's a differentiator, definitely in the industry. To various degrees, the customer are already asking for it, but no matter if they are already asking for it or not, this is a responsibility that we see as ours. And I'm very proud that we put that at the center of our discussion. And here it comes to environmental friendly, etc. But we also looking at our culture in the company and the way how we value diversity. Diversity of thoughts and how we respect each other and so on. I really love the culture we have developed in such short period of time, but that's really also part of our DNA. So that's something at the center of our daily work and definitely a differentiator, be it internal, but I believe also an external factor.
Okay. We spoke a lot about what we as a company have to do and can do. But you also mentioned a couple of times now regulations, international regulations, rules, etc. But let's speak a little bit about Chinese-specific policies and regulations. What kind of policies do we have here, and might be also changing, which influences your company and your business here?
Yeah, so definitely we came from the times of combustion, and there was all the regulations related to the China emission laws, and of course we are also looking at the bigger picture where China is going to peak with regards to carbon emissions by 2030, and is going to be neutral by 2060. So we are completely within this range, within this scope, as I said, and we are together also in our local facilities. We have solar panels that are powering for some of our plants up to 50% of the consumption that we need on a yearly base. Of course, we can always do more, but that's a very great step already. And on our side, we want to be carbon neutral already in our production by 2030. So we are fully in line with the push here, which I really appreciate. And personally, living in Shanghai for more than 14 years now, I can tell you that the air was not like it is today. In this great environment, we probably would not have this beautiful light over here. It has changed, and I'm very happy about this. So this is definitely helping. The incentives and the regulation we talk as well, there used to be quite some incentive encouraging people to switch to an electric car, an electrified car, be it battery or plug-ins. This is gone already to a certain extent because the end users are buying these cars because they're fun to drive, because they're convenient, because they're connected. Yeah. So this part, they are still, but this is not so much anymore in the center of our thoughts. I mean, this has gone to a more mature market, I would say.
Okay. We have, I think, over 110 Chinese OEM brands in China. And when I came here in 2018, people were saying there will be huge consolidation. This cannot continue like that. 5 years later, the consolidation is still to come. Will it come? Why will it come? And when will it come?
Well, guess what? When I came in 2010, a lot of people were saying also the consolidation would come, and it didn't come. What I can say though is this is a very dynamic market, and in a very dynamic environment and very changing environment. A lot of as I said, some companies are getting the number one spot, and maybe some years later it's another company. This is changing extremely fast, which makes to a certain extent the environment to be more an environment where there should be some couple of mergers. At the same time, electrification requires a lot of investment, right? And we are on our side very proud that next year we announced it that we are going to break even for our electrification business.
Quite early.
And believe me, that's something that we are all really dedicated to bring in. And so to a certain extent, to the merger consolidation of a couple of companies, I personally believe this environment is more an environment that would tend to do so. And we start to see a lot of cooperation already. To which extent will it go to a consolidation, still to be proven. But the environment is probably also showing that now it's even accelerating. But it did not happen. Like in 2018, like in 2010. Didn't happen yet. But I believe there should be a couple to come. Yeah.
Big topic in Germany and the European Union is that Chinese EV makers flooding now the European market. Looking at the data, that's not true at all. Nevertheless, it is a topic, and people are quite scared that our traditional OEMs, we know, might not play a role as they did in the past. How do you look at this topic?
Well, I will let, first of all, for the different disputes and regulation, I will let the politicians look into this. But looking at overall, as you said, this market here is rather mature. So if you look at the demand on the end consumer, it has peaked back a couple of years ago. It's not growing so much anymore. However, there is a huge production base here. And by the way, the exporters from China is not only Chinese companies, right? There are also international companies that are playing here, because they are here to start with the scale and looking at the supply chain that is established. So to a certain extent, I believe there will be a certain share that it will, of course, be exported from this market. China is probably already the number one exporter. If we look at this year, I think this year is passing the first one. And I believe it will stay so. However, there's also space to play. There is also space to play in Europe. There is also space to play in Americas. We should not be too frightened about this. I think if we look back at the history, we were probably also frightened about Japanese cars, then Korean cars, or I don't know in which order. I don't think we should be frightened here. We should learn from this. We should rely also, as I said before, on the suppliers that are acting on a global scale, and we can help actually the OEMs at home to gain the knowledge that we gained here as well in this market. So I think definitely this is a trend that is changing. As you said, the data doesn't show it completely. However, this is probably an irreversible trend. There will be more of these cars on the market. Who's going to be the winner at the end of the day? I don't know, but there is space for everyone.
I ask you at one of my 11 questions, is globalization coming to an end? And you said, no. Recapping now our discussion we had, the answer would be because it doesn't make sense. Is that true?
Well, as I said, we have to learn from each other in a different part of the world. It used to be, I would say, the West, in automotive industry, the West leading and China very fast follower. And taking over on some particular niche. Right now, for me at least, it seems that it's the other way around, with China leading, trying things, and as I said, sometimes extremely successful, sometimes failing and really adjusting quickly, and Europe, US, being fast follower. So this is really something that has changed. So this dynamics, I don't think it will always stay like this. There might be also something new. I don't know, autonomous driving might come, and here back, maybe the West is going to take the lead again. I think we all have to learn from each other. And right now we are taking the best where we are. And that's where multinationals operating on multiple continents can thrive at the end of the day, because we really take, and as I said, sometimes we are successful, sometimes we do suffer because we learn a lot. Yes. But it doesn't make sense, as you said, to stop this globalization. First of all, on the knowledge. It doesn't make sense as well from a supply chain. All the supply chains are so interconnected. And especially when you talk about electronics, there are certain arenas where it's specialized. It's more specialized in certain arenas of the globe where you have access to certain technologies and others you don't. You cannot make platform products for the world based on each time you have to change a certain chipset because of that or that regulations. And that's an arena where we have to be very vigilant, because there are some geopolitics ongoing right now. But if you want to scale, and that's the only way to succeed in this industry, I mentioned we have to make these cars affordable. It makes no sense to make a very clean car that supports life cycle engineering and circularity, etc. But if nobody is buying, we have failed as an industry, right? Yeah. So at the end, it's also very important to be affordable and therefore to scale. And right now, the scaling is out of this market. If I look a little bit further, China will be anyway 50% of the BEV market, and that will be the same size as Europe plus US together. So we have to be here for scaling and reducing. This trend is also not really possible to come back from, at least from what I see today.
And this brings me to my last question. I think we could discuss the whole evening, but we have to make a cut somewhere. So let's look into the future. What's your prediction where the Chinese automotive market is in 10 years? And how do you or Vitesco Technologies adapt its strategy to be still competitive then in 10 years for these changed markets?
Yeah, I talk a lot about speed. I talk a lot about looking at the supply chain. I talk a lot about also the changeover, the reaction, the volatility of the volumes. I believe we will be with a great position in this market as we are transforming, that we are bringing these components to this market already now with other expertise. At the same time, what we have to be is providing more of independence and freedom to the team to decide to be on the ground. And that's something as a traditional automotive suppliers normally like the global structure and the global frame. Going towards this transformation, we will be successful being much more independent in this market and making our own decision. But and that's where I see Vitesco Technologies in a couple of years from now. At the same time, of course, I hope that we can transfer all the knowledge, all the know-how we have to our headquarters.
Yeah, okay, got it. last but not least, why is Vitesco Technologies member of the German Chamber of Commerce?
Well, first of all, because we have good friends over there, and you guys are really a reliable partner and source for all the information, regulations, but also when there are concerns, and we have concerns, be it from the China side, but also from the German side or the European side, you're really great aggregation of the different voices from and the interest of the German companies on the ground. So for this, you're a helping hand in providing the information to the one or the other instances. You're also supportive in a lot of other elements, such as also visa. We talked a lot about visa in the past years with the
We're
pandemic
still talking
and so
about
on.
it.
We're
Yes.
still talking about it. But that was one element. But also, I really appreciate all the events that you are organizing. I'm not always in these events, but my colleagues are, and the feedback is always very good in terms of learning, but also in terms of networking and promoting the different elements of the German companies community. So, that's really a pleasure to be a member of the Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you very much. Thank you also very much to taking your time for this evening that you shared a lot of insights with our members. Most or a big part of our members are from the automotive industry. A lot are concerned. So the more information we can provide, the better it helps. And you did that really, really great tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Max.